And okay, I need to check a couple of things with me. Minimize on this side, minimize that. Okay, I think we're live. We're live. Yay, yay. Hey, everybody. How's it going today on this fabulous Friday? Doesn't it feel like the weeks are just flying by? So I'm Liz Dawn, as you know that, because my name's on the bottom of the screen. And I'm here with the fabulous Chris Grosso, best-selling author of Dead Set on Living.
Nailed it.
Dead Set on Living. And he is known as, his website is The Indie Spiritualist. I love that, The Indie Spiritualist. Chris is just so cool. It's so fun to have you here today, Chris.
It's always a pleasure. I love you so much, Liz, and I will take any chance I can get to share time with you. So thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much. And it looks like we've got a few people here. Oh, people are popping in. So as you're popping in, just make sure and say hey, so we know that you're out there watching. Janice is there, and Shani is there, all the way from Australia too. Huh? So as people start to trickle in, oh, okay, hold on. We're having an eyelash malfunction. Okay, there we go. So we're going to have a really cool conversation today because Chris is doing some phenomenal work out there in the world and working with young people and in a mental health, you're working in a mental health residential facility for teens, is that right?
Yeah, I do weekly day workshops there, about 6 a month. Yeah, so yes, that amongst other things. With that right now, even with COVID, I'm so fancy. I'm an essential employee, so I actually still go in and haven't stopped through all of it. So yeah.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. Okay, so we've got Carol here, and Shauna, and Esther, and Jinja, and Janice, and Shani. Okay, everybody, as you're popping in, just make sure you shout out hi. So you're working mostly with like teen population, like 13 through 18?
Yeah, like I said, right now, I mean, normally when things are more open, I do more speaking at different events and with all demographics and genres of people, but even through and pre-COVID for the last 5 years, I've been doing this work with the teens at the residential, and probably the greatest passion I have, being able to work with that demographic. I mean, I'm humbled and honored to work with anyone who's on their healing journey, but especially when they're a little younger, and maybe something I say will help shift their trajectory, even slightly. Maybe not, I don't know, but I'm trying. Uh-oh, did I lose you, Liz? I wonder if I'm still live. I think I am still live. Because everyone can see and hear me. Can anybody, I don't know if I can see comments outside the chat, live comments. If anyone's on, we can see. Oh, there's Carol. Okay. I'm going to just talk for a minute until Liz comes back. So, hi, Tanya. Okay, I'm taking it away. Yeah, so as Liz was saying, I do that work with teenagers. And I will quickly give you a backstory. Well, oh, no, there's Liz. Okay. I was flying solo for a minute.
I went to shut down my notifications. I shut down all of my windows.
I love live anything. It's perfect. This is life, right?
Okay, I'm so glad that I didn't shut you out. So you were talking about everything that you've been doing, I'm assuming. Okay, go ahead and just pick it. You just go for it, Chris. Just keep going. I love that.
I was just very quickly, and you probably were going to ask anyways about this, but I was just saying the reason I started doing that work at the teen residential was when my first book came out, Indie Spirituals, 5 years ago. Tommy Rosen, I'm not sure if you're connected with him, but he's a really great author, and he's with Hay House, the yoga teacher. He had gotten a copy to this gentleman, Jameson, who runs the facility where I work. And so this gentleman, Jameson, saw that I live in Connecticut, where one of the facilities is located. And also after reading the book, that I've been through everything that they cover there. And that's drug abuse and addiction and,
You've been through all the shit and the drama. Okay, this is a good candidate, right?
So anyways, that's how I ended up there. Thanks to my first book. And I haven't looked back since.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you've been teaching and writing and working with teens who so greatly need to hear from you. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, what you're teaching our country's youth.
Yeah, so it really is very back to basics 101, grounding techniques, mindfulness techniques, using music, for example, as coping skills, and how to like meet the teens where they are. And that's how I approach working with anyone, regardless of age, but meeting people where they are and finding their passions and trying to use those as the foundation that we can start building mindfulness practices and contemplative practices. And so for example, if a teen really loves art or loves playing guitar or bass, but feels like I don't have any connection to spirituality or any, I have no interest in that. I can use that. Usually, it doesn't always work, but I do my best to use that as creating art when you're really there. It's just you and the paintbrush and the palette and the canvas, if that's your medium. It's just you. You get lost in that. You're completely engulfed. You're not even thinking, and it's a really like a transcendental, beautiful experience. And so if I can point to that as, hey, no, that's a spiritual experience. Call it what you want. You don't have to use that word, but that is kind of a gateway I find for them to maybe look at what spirituality or mindfulness or meditation is and approach it from again meeting them where they are, and it tends to work more times than not. So,
Wow. And do you find that there's like a similarity, a commonality with all the kids that you've been working with in the treatment center? Like, because what disturbs me sometimes is that we have so many troubled youth. We have so many
yeah.
troubled teens in our world right now. And so do you find that there's something in particular? I mean, is it all just, abusive backgrounds, or is it all just, alcohol or substance abuse? So
Yeah.
what are you finding? Is there a commonality that the kids are screaming, we can't deal with X, or we can't deal with these
Sure.
things?
You know what I think it is, and I don't mean to sound like the old curmudgeon-y guy, but really, after doing this for so many years, I think social media is a big part of it. Of
Mm,
course, some of the teens have parents that struggle with addiction or they come from abusive homes, but a good majority of them don't. For all intents and purposes, they come from, just like me, what would be considered a relatively normal home. But that doesn't mean it's perfect, and things that we might not look at as a traumatic experience actually can be, depending. We're all wired differently, so
no.
experiences affect us differently. So, but yeah, the social media thing. I think I'm 42, and I look back when I was younger, the internet was just starting. So I grew up, pre-internet for a good chunk of it, and there wasn't social media, and the social media bullying is a very real thing, and finding our sense of self and how many likes we get or how many followers, it's a very real thing, and I'm not saying that's the biggest issue, but yeah, I find that with so many teens. Luckily, at this facility and others, they learn that it doesn't mean what the importance they put on it. It's not really there, and they're given tools and techniques to unplug from that and use it in a way more skillfully. So they're not basing their sense of self on those numbers and statistics. So
Wow, that's wild that's what you're hearing. That's what you're finding is social media bullying. I mean, it happens all over our world. I mean, in
yeah,
our country, we have people in our own government and, high level positions that do social media bullying. So what kind
right,
of example? I mean, we have to be the example for
yeah,
these kids, because if we're doing it on such a high level, then it's okay. Oh,
right,
no, then it's okay. Those
yeah,
actions are right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I totally get it. Can someone do me a favor and um, make a comment, because I am not seeing any comments come through, and I don't know if my thing got frozen. Janice, if you're there, just say something. Just say something. Say the word something, because I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that if anybody wants to make a comment or ask Chris a question, that I can see the comments and stuff. Or Tanya, somebody make a comment. And Tanya, text me if you've made. There you go. Hello. Okay,
Hey,
Tanya Thank you. Good. Okay. Everybody was so quiet. They were completely entranced in what you were saying. Yes, we're listening.
That's what it is, right?
Perfect. Okay, good. Comment. Thank you, Betty. Now they're all saying, comment something. We're listening. Thank you, Esther.
Hello.
Oh, Esther. Oh, Esther, your name, and you have very special meaning for me and Janice. Esther is my Hebrew name. Okay, and Sean is there. Okay, fabulous. And Sharon. All right, great. So, I mean, I'm so fascinated that you're doing this work. And because I feel like this is the, they're the ones that are going to be the grown-ups someday and taking over, our world. So how receptive are they? Because I'm sure you're teaching them all of your mindfulness techniques and different meditation. How receptive are they to mindfulness and meditation and things that you've been teaching them?
Yeah, surprisingly, I mean, it ebbs and flows because they're there for 30, 60, 90 days. And there's two different campuses, male, female. And sometimes it's great, and I'll be there for a couple of months and everyone's really into it. And then sometimes they're not. And so, I just show up and I don't place the results on that, which I used to. And it was, I'm just being very sensitive. I'd be like, oh, they don't, not even that they don't like me. I'm not helping. I'm not doing enough. But I've learned that, I just hope and do the best that I can. What else can I do? But what I can say is, in all honesty, was when I walk in, I teach in yurts, which is kind of fun. They have yurts on the campus. And so when I walk in, the first thing they see is, as you know, but I'm covered in tattoos.
He's tatted
big holes. So yes, I'm tatted up. And when I go in there, like automatically I have their attention. Like before I even talk, like, oh, cool tattoo. So I'm grateful for that. Like I have that in. But again, using those techniques where I will use music or art or contemporary pop culture, and in a way that I'm still trying to distill some of the great wisdom teachings or techniques. It's really amazing. And what I will say, to your point, which I love, you said these are the people that are going to be the next generation. I love the inspiration that I get from seeing the transformations of these individuals. Not everyone, of course, but more than not. And, seeing them when they come in the first week compared to when they leave a few weeks later, it is amazing. Because what I try to not elaborate, what I just try to tell them, and I'm sure other clinicians there do as well, is that they have a gift. They have this opportunity to actually go inside and start doing some real digging on the things that have happened to them in their lives. And when you start re-owning that and reintegrating that in a healthy way, there goes the trauma, there goes a lot of the stress. And that's the things that brought them and brought myself to look for things outside of us, whether it's drugs or overspending or countless hours on video games, TVs. We're just trying to mask it with, what can I do to not be in my body? Even spiritual practices can be a form of aversion. I've done it myself. If I just sit down on the meditation cushion, not to meditate, but really, I just want to feel what I'm feeling right now. I want to get into that transcendental state. And yes, that's way healthier. But all of these things can be addictive and means of aversion. So anyways, it's amazing to see those transformations. I have a lot of hope for the next generation as they come up. I do.
I hope so. And Betty wrote something that I'm concerned about too. She wrote, my concern is for all the tweens, not just our troubled ones, but for our everyday ones now. After 4 months of quarantine lockdown, they are playing video games and watching movies without normal kid interaction. And I'm worried about severe depression, zombie mentality setting in now. What can we offer parents to do to offset zombie depression? Betty, I am so glad you asked that, because I was exercising the other day here on my street. And of course it was almost nighttime because it's so hot in Arizona right now. You really can't go outside during the day. Like it is 117 outside. So I passed a parent and he was telling me he doesn't know what to do with his kids. He's got to work. His wife's got to work, and the kids are just in front of the TV and and playing these video games, on the things. I do the thumb things. That's the only thing I think that's how they play it. They're there all day. And so to Betty's point, how can we help? What can we do?
Yeah, one thing I can say is I know my brother, for example, is a high school math teacher, and so um, since they started doing online learning, he has said that the curriculum's there, but very much to Betty's point, a lot of the kids aren't even logging in, and I don't know if it's the parents not enforcing it or if they're just fooling the parents, whatever. But it's very hard for teachers also as well as parents. One thing that I heard a few weeks ago, and I can't take credit for this, I was listening to NPR, and it was a physician. I don't recall her name, but it was a very similar question that Betty had asked about both children and just humans in general. What can we do, especially if we go back into another lockdown? And what this physician said is something that potentially could be an option is having a core group of like 2 or 3 sets of family friends, and it's kind of a trust contract, but that they are very dedicated no matter what they do. They always wear a mask. They are constantly washing their hands. They perform proper hygiene. And that way they will keep little gatherings because obviously Maslow's, hierarchy of needs right up there is being not just being accepted, but social interaction with other
Right.
people. So I thought that was a really interesting take. Now she said everything comes with a risk. If you walk out of the house, you're subjecting yourself to potentially getting COVID or transmitting it if you have it. But take into account Betty's wonderful point, both for teens, tweens, and adults too. If you are lucky enough, at least, to have like even just one set of family friends that have kids, let alone 2 or 3, and you can all kind of come up with this contract. It doesn't have to be written, but we all promise to do everything we can, and that way on weekends or even weekdays, summer vacation, whatever, our children can hang out. We can have a cookout in the backyard. It's still maybe even social distance, have backyard visits. But like for example, one of the bands I'm in, both my bands have had to put going into the studio and practicing on hold. But what one of them is doing is the guitar player and I meet in his backyard, and we waited very very long to do this. We're in Connecticut, but Connecticut's doing relatively well, and we'll sit like 7-10 feet apart with our guitars and just practice outside. So at least we're not practicing. I know people can do that online, but there's something to be said for in-person interaction and again for adults as much as teens. So that's the best thing that I've heard realistically as far as what can be done. Maybe someone even listening has a better suggestion, which I would love to hear because I'm sure I'll continue to get that question because there's no end in sight right now for these conditions, unfortunately. Not to be a downer, just
I
real.
know. And that's really, oh boy, core group trust contract. Oh, I love that. Just what Betty was saying. And I also love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how do we get families like our crime watch process to do a family watch to observe behavior changes? Oh, Betty, that's really interested. That's a really, really interesting thing. Yeah.
Mm,
But not all day. So I guess they are on their tablets, etc. Yeah, I know. And Janet is saying that there are 3 kids that live next door to her, and they're very rarely playing in the garden. And she lives in the UK, so it's not so hot there. And they be doing school lessons online, but not all day. So I guess they are on their tablets. Yeah, it's a shame that, if I could, I honestly, if I could get the kid, if it wasn't so hot here, I would, because I grew up in camp, I would get
yeah.
the kids outside and let's do a scavenger hunt. Let's
Yeah.
do some kind of a like play thing outside, even if it's up and down the streets. Let's block off the street and do some, and that's something I've actually been thinking about in my own neighborhood, is
Yeah.
doing something at night. But then how do we stay comfortable? You wear masks, or the kid wear masks, how's that going to be?
I know it's
It's
time for us to get creative, and think outside of the box. And that's why I wish I had that physician's name. But when I heard that, like I said, at least in my experience, that's the best suggestion thus far that I've heard. And I thought realistically, yeah, no matter what we do, we're all at risk, no matter what. And now we're seeing even younger people, like it wasn't at the beginning, it was just people over 60 had the greatest risk. Now it's no, it's everybody has at risk for this. And even again, if the younger generation isn't going to show symptoms, they're carriers and transmitters of it. And that's been difficult to see with over the 4th when the beaches opened up. And it was unfortunate. It was a younger generation that, not all, but a lot of young adults that were just on these beaches with no masks, and adults too, of course, but very disheartening to see that. But
Yeah. It's hard. So talk a little bit about mindfulness. I wanted to touch on mindfulness today because I love that, this is kind of like one of your main bandwidths that you focus on with your teachings.
Yeah.
So let's talk about mindfulness. What does it mean? How do we practice mindfulness, on like a daily basis? And when we're getting into anxiety, are there a few simple tips that you can offer us?
Sure. Absolutely, and I love that you asked that, because to me, that's the core foundation of my well-being. Everything stems from a deeply rooted practice in mindfulness, because it floods into every area of my life, which I'm so grateful for. It also can be annoying, to be totally transparent, because, when I want to just lash out at someone, even though it's my fault, I'm aware that it's my fault, and so I usually don't, or if I do, I realize, Chris, this is all your fault. I can't lie to myself about it. Anyway, that said, so mindfulness, you ask 10 different teachers, you might get 10 different responses, but mindfulness and meditation certainly go hand in hand. I've heard, again, I forget which teacher, but I appreciated the way they said meditation tends to go more inside, or mindfulness tends to go more outside, subjective versus objective. Now, again, they completely go hand in hand and cross over. So meditation to me goes outside and mindfulness inside. But I do appreciate that kind of brief difference for people that are new to it. So mindfulness for me, and this is going to contradict what I just said, starts in my body, honestly. Like I like to do grounding exercises. So, for example, if I'm having anxiety or stress or any other unpleasant experience, I've tried for years to think my way out of it, talk my way out of it. But what that ends up doing is just, it's like a pinwheel, that you blow into it. It makes the pinwheel go more and more,
This
right?
mental chatter that grabs
Yeah,
a hold and it like doesn't stop. I know.
exactly. Yeah. So I'm just
Just
giving my
spiral down. I get it.
over and faster, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so what I found, and again, we're all wired differently, so maybe it'll be a little different for others. Sorry, I just got these new earphones that are popping out. But anyway, so I go into my body. What I actually do, and you can start anywhere, but I start at my feet because that's the farthest part away of my body from where my mind is.
Right now.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey, let's everybody do this together.
Here we go. And the beauty is, even if you're driving, you can do this practice because you don't have to have your eyes closed. Of course, I recommend do it at home if you can, just to get the feel for it. But very simple. You can close your eyes if you'd like to. I often do just to go deeper in the experience, but it's not necessary. And simply, all I do is I bring my awareness into my feet. I check in with both my feet. And what I mean is, I'm not thinking about them, I'm feeling into them. Is there anything going on? Does one foot by chance have a pain, or is it tense versus the other one? And they may not be, and that's fine. I'm just looking, just exploring what's going on there in my feet. And then from there, and I'm walking through a little quicker than I usually do this, but I just go up into my legs, checking my shins, my calves, just again exploring, kind of mindfully going in there and feeling into the experience. Is there anything going on in there? And if I do find something that's uncomfortable, I don't try to change it. I just become aware of it. That's part of mindfulness. It's just recognizing what's happening within our bodies, coming back. And then I just continue to move up through the knees, into my thighs, and my hamstrings, just feeling through, seeing if there's anything there. And then up through the pelvic area, and then into the abdomen and lower back. Abdomen is a place where many of us often will hold tension. And if you find it, please feel free to just, if you want to take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, just relax into that breath. Let your belly go. Sometimes people call it a Buddha belly, just letting it out. And then continue scanning up into your midsection, your abdomen area, your mid back, your ribs, up into your chest, your upper back, your shoulder blades, into your shoulders. See if there's anything going on there. And if there is, feel free to just relax your body into it. Don't shy away from it. Don't turn away. Just see if there's anything going on. And then continue to scan our arms from the shoulder down to the forearm, down to our hands and our fingertips. See if our hands might be scrunched or tight in a fist. If so, just feel free to let them go. helps to shake them out a little, by all means. And then you just scan back up the arms, back into the shoulders, into your neck and throat, then up to your face, starting with your your jawline, then your mouth. See if there's any tension going on there. Are your teeth clenched perhaps? Also feeling into your cheeks. Is there any tightness there? Your eyes and your brow. Sometimes your brow might be furrowed. Into your forehead. Is anything scrunched up there? If so, just let it go. And then just ending up at the top of our head, or the crown chakra if we're speaking in yogic terms. And from there, that's the practice. And then you can take another deep breath if you like, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And if your eyes were closed, feel free to slowly bring them back into the room. Just unplug my computer. But yeah, Liz, what do you think? Was that at all helpful for you?
Yes. I feel like it brought me back into my body. I feel like it brought me back into, like what you said, grounded. I even feel like my voice sounds different. Like I feel more present. I feel more grounded. I feel more aware. Whew, yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's so simple. It's literally just bringing our body back into homeostasis, into its natural resting state. It's calming our central nervous system. And there's, again, a number of other practices that certainly do that. But that's one that I just love, because a lot of the time, like I said, either thinking, like the pinwheel, exacerbates the situation. And also for me, at least, I want to, when I'm feeling anything unpleasant, I want to get out of my body. Hence why I became so heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol. I want to numb. I don't want to feel. But I find that actually going into the body is where that calming sensation can happen if you approach it, at least in that way. For me, that I just shared, I find that really helpful. Just, again, grounding, embodying our experience, and being here now, as Ram puts it.
Ram Dass.
Yeah.
I love that. It brought me so present. It brought me so into the moment, and with clarity. So, next question. You must have this on audio somewhere.
That one, good question. I don't know if I do. And if I don't, now I'm going to have to do it. I have plenty of other ones, like Insight Timer has a bunch of mine. I don't know if I've recorded that.
Like a quick 5-minute, wouldn't you all love that, to hear Chris's voice? Because I have to tell you, your voice really assisted me. No, it does, because when I do that on my own, it's wonderful. But hearing your voice really helped to guide me through it.
Thank you very much.
Like a 5-minute. So I have a new product for you. Get ready for everybody, because Chris is going to do like a 5-minute, simple, audio meditation, mindfulness. It's like mindfulness on the go. There you go.
I love those quick 3 to 5 minute practices that you can do anytime, even 1 minute. This actually can't be done in a minute. You can scan quickly once you get a feel for it, but in the beginning, I suggest trying to go a little bit longer and really feel into the body and the experience. But yes, Liz, I am going to, as soon as we get off this call, it's going in my Google Calendar to record this. I will get it to you, and exclusive to you, and celebrate your life and Mishka, and do whatever serves the audience with it as you go.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, because what it brought me into, as we say, being more mindful, having more presence. As Ram Dass would say, be here now. It was really beautiful. Thank you.
I'm glad, just because I'll be honest, I've been having some pain in my back, and today's been a rough day with that. And right now, after sharing that, I feel calmer and I feel reduced pain, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you for asking.
Yeah. I also had this thing where every time I breathed, my back hurt. Yes, my husband's a chiropractor, and I haven't seen him yet. He's been at work all day. And I was like, oh, wow, that really relaxed. Like, I was in meetings this morning. Every time I moved, Tanya was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I could feel it just relax into my body.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, one thing I'll say quickly, I know we're running a little short on time, but I do want to say something I've learned. I've been working with a wonderful doctor's name's Dr. David Hanscom. Has a couple of great books out, because I've had for a year now some really unpleasant things going on in my back. And One thing he's helped me realize, and this is for anyone in the audience, regardless of whether you have back pain or not, any kind of chronic pain, is anxiety. When we're having anxiety, it's releasing adrenaline and cortisol, and it's creating inflammation in our body. And when we start to reduce that by simple practices like I just did, any kind of mindfulness, anything that calms us down and brings us back into homeostasis, it reduces chronic pain. And it really helps. I've been working with him for about a month now, and expressive writing and a whole bunch of other things. But one point that he just makes, and your audience might already know it, I wasn't really aware of that how much anxiety actually, aside from being unpleasant, actually plays into inflammation and things that I definitely struggle with. So, in case that's helpful for anyone, just another reason to practice meditation and mindfulness and other common techniques. So.
Oh, I love it, Chris. You're such an angel. So I want to share with everyone the name of your podcast, because you've been doing phenomenal interviews with all
Thank you.
teachers and people. And I think you just did an interview. He looked like a football player. I didn't know who it was, but I think it was.
Oh, Dan Cortez. Yes, he used to be a VJ on MTV for many years, and he was in an incredible episode of Seinfeld. And he's a dear, dear man. He just wrote an amazing book, and yeah, it's so rad that I get to have people like him and Steve-O, who you introduced me to. And actually, funny enough, I don't know if I mentioned this, I've created a workshop with the teens based on the conversation I had with Steve-O, and they love it because they all know who he is. But it's just another way, like I try to take pop culture and things and use it in a way to, get their interest.
Absolutely. Oh, there you go. You can call on Steve-O and have him come in on a little Zoom call with the kids. They would freak out.
They would. I play a little part of the recording where I ask him what he would say to them, and just that alone, they're like, "Oh, he knows we're here." And I'm like, I don't know if he knows here specifically, but he knows you're here going through what he's gone through. And yeah, so the ripple effects that you create, Liz, they go on and on and on that you don't even know about. So thank you.
But that's like so important that you're doing this work in the world. It really is. People need to hear your voice, and they need to see that there's a way out of the addiction, that there's a way out of abuse, trauma.
Absolutely.
There's a way through it, and you give people hope. You absolutely give these kids hope, and you're so relatable with all your tattoos and your gauges and all that cool stuff. Like here he walks in, right? He's one of us.
I mean, it's a blessing that I'm alive. I've literally gone from my deathbed and being intubated because I couldn't breathe on my own. That's how bad it got, to doing this work. And the fact that I'm not terminally unique in that. There's millions of stories like mine of people that do overcome traumas and addictions and learn to live an awesome, really rewarding life. And there's of course the sad cases too, but those statistics don't have to be as high as they are. So especially now, like the question earlier about the zombie thing, it's not just that, it's more addiction rates, depression, all of these numbers are raising, but they don't have to. There's things we can do, and that's why now more than ever I feel this is so important, for sure.
Exactly. I agree. Okay, so it looks like Diane typed in here she just signed up for your daily podcast. And so I'm going to enter it again. So it's BeHereNowNetwork.com. Yeah. So Diane posted.
Daily.
Is that great?
The new episodes air, I think it's every 2 to 3 weeks, but thank you for sharing that, because there was a backlog. I think I have 60 or so episodes or more. We're actually celebrating right now our four-year anniversary. The first year was with a different network, but 4 years right now. We're doing a little fundraiser, and it's amazing. Like, how cool, Be Here Now is network's been around for 4 years and doing better than ever. So,
and Ram Dass loves that, because it's Ram Dass's network. And your website is theindiespiritualist.com.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Diane in our office is posting where you can also find Diane with Dan Cortez and theindiespiritualist.com. That's perfect. That's great.
Thank you so much, Diane. I appreciate it.
Chris, it's so wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much. I so greatly appreciate your presence and the work that you're doing in the world. It's just
my heart's all lit up right now. Thank you. This has completely turned my afternoon around. Wasn't bad, but I like the pain. Now I feel amazing. Thank you, Liz.
All right. Well, and stay right there, Chris. I'm just going to sign off to everybody else. So great that you joined us today. Thank you. Thank you so much. And remember, we've got that course with Denise Lynn, that emotional, mental, physical clutter clearing course, the 28-day course. If you go to our website at celebrateyourlife.com, you'll get all the information. Here, let me go ahead and just post it really quickly. If you go to our website at celebrateyourlife.com, and then it's /let-it-go. It's let it go. It's the let it go course. So if you go to celebrateyourlife.com, it'll tell you all about it. It's a 28-day journey and course. It's going to be amazing. So come join us.
Denise is awesome.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Stay here just for a second. Okay.